I didn't even know what actuaries do.
Okay.
I was just told, look, if your maths is this good,
And not
that's the
just good,
career.
if
That's
it's
the
this
career.
excellent.
We were told, no, this course is hard.
Yeah.
Most people fail. So you start failing yourself. My one friend who's now the chief digital officer at ABSA,
Yeah.
he had 8%.
What are other barriers when you now getting into the working world?
So the healthier a population is, and the more you attract healthy lives, the better your claims go.
Welcome to the next episode of SAADP ChatBytes, a platform to spotlight the stories, voices, and impact of South African Actuarial Development Program. Whether you are a student, alumni, funder, or stakeholder, this space is for you. In today's episode, we are chatting to Jos Maroba, who is the head of research and development lab at Discovery Health, where he leads a multidisciplinary team of actuaries and other professionals focused on product development and innovation. His work supports the Discovery Health medical scheme as well as other business units within Discovery Health, driving strategic initiatives that blends actuarial science, technology, and behavioral insights. He is a qualified actuary with 20 years of experience in the financial services industry. Just spent 7 of those years in Germany, where he served as a head of product development for Generali Vitality. He holds a BSc honors degree in actuarial science from the University of Witwatersrand and is a fellow of both the Actuarial Society of South Africa and Faculty of Actuaries in the UK. Jos has also completed executive education programs in dynamic management at Duke University, fintech at SAID Business School, University of Oxford, big data and social analytics, MIT, and behavioral economics at Booth School of Business, University of Chicago. Welcome, Jos.
Welcome to SAADP ChatBytes. Today, I'm having a sit down with Josias Maroba. We've spoken about the surname thing, but hey, we butcher and butcher and butcher it, but I'm going to make sure that it's correct. Welcome to SAADP ChatBytes.
Thank you, Pamzile.
How is it feeling?
I've never done something like this before, but I'm
Okay.
excited
You're
for
excited.
the conversation, to share my story, to have a conversation about my career and SAADP. Yeah,
Yes.
looking forward to it.
You know what excites me the most? Having you today, because you are also a board member, outside of you being an alumni. So this conversation it's for me, it's one of the best because you wear so many hats outside of you, being an actuary. So today what we're talking about is not mainly about the topics, the economy and other things, but we want to shine the light on the profession and people who are actually the brand. From my side where I'm sitting, you are my product. So this is us selling you. So look at this product. This is the person,
What
the
you have
people.
produced.
Yes, what we've produced. I like that. So let's start by going back to a young man, Jos, where you come from, background, and your aspirations before you even decided to get into actual science.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm a boy from rural South Africa, born and bred. So if you ask me about my story, that's where I would start it.
Okay.
So when you mentioned that I'm a product of SAADP, the one thing I would mention is I was actually the second one to qualify as an actuary. I was in the first group that was recruited by SAADP. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point.
Okay.
And of that group, I was the second one to qualify as an actuary. But the story going back before that, is me born in the Free State in Kwa.
Oh, mountains.
Yes, up in the mountains. To a family. It's a family of 5, but it became a family of 4 quite quickly. So it was. I had my mother, father, and the third of 3 siblings, the last born. And then, but my mom died when I was 4 years old. So
Okay.
we were raised by my dad. And he was, for most of my life, he was unemployed.
Okay.
So it's a tough life. I mean,
Oh,
it's
I can
single
imagine.
parent, it's unemployed single parent. But you know, there's a lot of positives in that, because I think on the one hand, it's tough going through the cycles of life with a single
Yes, and you have
parent
kids.
who doesn't have a job and struggles to put food on the table. It's tough.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, I think it shapes your character,
definitely.
because you
Definitely.
learn to be resourceful. You learn that you can make your life work. Circumstances
Yeah.
are only part of the story. You have agency. You can make things happen. And I think that's one of the things I picked up from my dad, that despite our circumstances, he was very
possible.
committed. Yeah, very
Yeah.
committed to education,
Wow.
very high standards for excellence. And that's why both myself and the rest of my siblings, we pursued education quite aggressively. And it's part of how I got here.
Oh, wow. So before then, you choosing a career, what did you have in mind? When it's like, when I want to grow up, I want to be A. What was that?
So we have to talk about my dad again. So we one of the things I didn't mention, I'm a church raised.
I Googled you. I Googled you, Jos.
You Google people.
I know that Christian background. I saw that about you, which is
so raised
amazing.
by the church. So I mentioned that because then there was a guy in Bethlehem, nearest big town to where I was born. He was an optometrist, and with the optometrist we had to see, because of my disability. Had to consult optometrist, a certain Dr. Staples. Now, Dr. Staples was a pastor in our church and a doctor. So my dad thought, that's amazing. So that's what you're gonna do.
That combo.
You're gonna be the exact combo. You're gonna be a pastor on the weekend, and you're gonna be a doctor during the week. But I'm a stubborn person. I got that from him. So immediately when you tell me you're gonna do that's the thing I'm not gonna do. So
direction.
So I never wanted to be a doctor. I was told you'll be a doctor and a pastor for most of my life. Wow. Most of my life. But I kind of resisted that. What I like is making things, and that's why I'm in product development now. That even though I'm in financial services, I build products. I build medical aid products, and I take a lot of pride. You know, when people say I'm on this plan, I'm like, I'm the guy
that's
there.
me. That's me.
So I was drawn to engineering initially for that love of making things, building things. But later, I think in closer to matric, I was told, look, your maths is really good. Don't you want to consider? I didn't even know what actuaries do. I was just told, look, if your maths is this good,
and not
that's
just
the
good,
career.
if it's this excellent.
If it's this excellent. Yeah, so I switched from engineering. In fact, I still had engineering in my list. You know, when you apply, you have to put your first choice, second choice.
Yeah.
I still had engineering on there. But then I was kind of drawn to actuarial science because of my maths. And that's how I ended up there. Yes.
Okay, then the journey begins of you qualifying. Let's say before qualifying, you now as a student, all the challenges, you know that you are good at maths. So share the journey of within the program, how has it assisted you and how has it shaped you until qualifying? And if there were any aha moments, or like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, or any challenges that you faced.
Actuarial science is very challenging.
Yeah.
It's very challenging. And in addition to that, you just have your normal challenges as a
day-to-day.
As a student. I was from the rurals, first time in Joburg. And, like I said, my dad was unemployed. First year, I didn't have funding. So my biggest headache was money.
Yep.
Because even if I had the NSFAS loan, and because of my marks, so the NSFAS covered my residence.
Oh, nice.
Then I had a scholarship. You get a certain amount per distinction and so on. So I had scholarship covering my tuition,
Yes.
and as far as covering my residence, but you don't have money for like toiletries and so on. So that was quite a struggle.
Yes,
So
those-
that's quite a big challenge that I remember from that time.
Yeah.
Then there's the course. The course is
Itself.
unforgiving. There's no, oh, you're from the rural areas. No, the first test we did, I got 33%, and it was one of the highest. My one friend, who's now the chief digital officer at ABSA, he had 8%.
Sure.
Um,
So you're still tops.
Yeah, in my group of friends. Not in the
In
class,
class,
but in the
okay.
group of friends, I was one. So, encountering that, and some of the guys, we are like top students, you came
yes.
with distinction, and there's that arrogance that I never fail, and then you fail
then
for
it
the first
happens.
time. And it's actually, in a funny way, it's an important experience.
Yeah.
Because in life, in as much as you can excel, it's a specific skill to know how to pick yourself up from failure, to know what to do, to know it's not the end of the world. It doesn't define who I am.
Yeah.
I can fight back. And some people were rattled by those initial failures and they dropped the
Yeah.
course.
And the whole mental health situation.
So it's over. So I think I look back with gratitude that actually I got to taste failure. I got to learn how to, because failure comes in life. It comes whether or not you are
you're brilliant,
perfect, brilliant, whatever
how your upbringing
exactly.
is.
So learning, I think I learned how to pick myself up, how to stay positive.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the challenges. Then in second year, just to maybe complete the story.
Yeah.
In second year, there was I think I told this story at the media thing.
Yes.
That they NSFAS announced that it was not going to fund us anymore, and so there was a lot of panic that what do you do, and that's funny enough, by whether you say through God or by a stroke of luck, the time NSFAS cut the funding was the time I got the call. That there's this new bursary that's been formed. They're looking for actuarial science students. So for me, it was like almost, a relief beyond, because then you don't have to worry like that. Okay, what am I gonna do with? Who's gonna pay for my fees? Do I have to go home? So SAADP then came in and took me under their wing from second year to the rest of my degree.
Hey, you've covered some of the barriers and challenges that you had when you were studying. I want to know now, then, when SAADP came on board, how was that support outside of, because there's financial support. When you have financial support, okay, everything is covered, but there's beyond that support. So the journey of how SAADP then helped further.
Yeah. The one thing I really appreciated, and it's difficult to articulate, but it's having someone there. Yeah. Having someone there. And it's in two ways. One is you have someone who thinks you can succeed. For a young, and a lot of us in those days, the conversation, because we were told, no, this course is hard. Yeah. Most people fail. So you start failing yourself. So you already have this plan B that, okay, after I fail actuarial science, I'm gonna do, some people say I'm gonna do accounting, people. So you are trying it, but you don't think you can make it. And I remember I used to explain to my sisters, this is hard. You must be prepared. I might have to drop it. But then you have someone.
So you mentally plan for yourself.
You mentally, it's subconscious that you don't think you'll make it. And then here's a bunch of people, at that time it was Mrs. Mkize, who believe you can and are putting money and expect it of you. I think I valued that. And it changed my mindset from I'm trying this to see if I can make it, to say there's now people I can't disappoint. I have to make it work. I must pass. I must excel. So that was a big mental shift. And then they had someone on campus. That's another thing I really valued. Mrs. Langa,
campus support.
The campus support.
It's like you have another parent.
Yeah, and she was exactly that. Her office was a place you could just go and hang out. You didn't have to go to talk about something or to ask something. we would just go sit. She had a bunch of chairs. We'd just sit around and chat, find whoever is there.
Yeah.
And that creates community. So suddenly you are not alone.
Don't feel alone.
At university.
Amazing.
You have community of support, and you have someone, I think you said that, a
Yes.
mother figure, someone you can talk to
Yeah.
about anything and everything. For me, those things were quite
So
valuable.
quite well. I think for me, that for me, it's always when I work with the team and look at the support that they give, it always sits so warmly in my heart, because if I remember my own journey when I was in tertiary, I really wish there was somebody who could guide me.
Yeah.
Then fast forward, you're qualifying, graduating, and then working world. Now this is the next step of life. The difference, the challenges, and also maybe share what are other barriers when you now getting into the working world after qualifying. Was it easy? Was it, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, it was harder. It was harder than university. And I think, when you say barriers, structural barriers, that's where the value of, I think now, with people like me in the working place, in senior exec roles, there's much more representation. When we graduated, Sentin was very foreign.
Yeah.
I'm not pointing fingers or blaming anyone, but that's how it feels when you walk in, that I don't belong here because I don't see anyone
Who looks like me.
Yeah. And it's not only in the actuarial space, it was just in financial services.
Oh, yeah.
In 2006, when I started work, I mean, there was starting to be a bit of transformation, but there was very little.
Yeah.
I think it affects how you think. Again, it affects the standards you set for yourself.
Yeah.
And what you expect, and then also role modeling, how much support you get. I mean, there was efforts to give us support.
Transition,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think it would have been, I hope it's easier now. I think it's easier now.
There's a lot of you there now.
Because there's a
Yes.
lot of people, like I said, I'm from rural SA, so that a younger person at least has someone who identifies with their challenges, identifies with their way of thinking and their expectations from at home to self-expectation. So, I think it was tough to transition back then. And then, of course, you learning to build a career. That's another thing that you as you go up the career ladder, a lot of things you need to adjust. When you start, you are more typical actually is like you are more numbers. You go up, it's less about the numbers. Now it's about building relationships and so having people, I think not in my case, not having enough people who can give you those tips that your career is now shifting to this. This is what you should look for. If you have this challenge, this is how you deal with it. I think it's a structural barrier that was looming large in our time. I'm glad to say it's much better. There's still a long way to go, but I think it's much better.
Yeah. And the alumni community, does that help as well? That you come from a certain program together, and then there's that community that you build outside as well.
Yeah, definitely. We stayed together. We were the SAADP alumni at the time. We were the only, or maybe the most of the Black graduates in the actuarial profession. So it creates, as you say, it creates community, it creates support. And then, of course, SAADP would organize, which I'm assuming still happens, these get-togethers that bring you together. And because you are all kind of facing similar challenges and dynamics, it becomes a space to share notes and see how other people are faring. Yeah.
Sure. So would you say before SAADP program came into being, the barriers of access, do you think, was it more knowledge about the actuarial science profession that most Black or African kids didn't know about it? Or was it financial access that was a biggest barrier for it to now have SAADP who, like, their focus is transformation, that we definitely must transform this particular profession?
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest barrier then? And if those barriers are still there now, what do you think of those?
I think financial is still the main barrier.
Yeah.
I think, knowledge is a barrier, but I think young people more so now, maybe less so back then.
Yeah.
Young people are very resourceful and they find information. So the information, obviously, there's value in making more information available, but I think the main barrier was financial and remains financial. I think talent is there.
Yeah.
I think the fact that, someone like me from a poor family in rural SA, from what you could call quintile, what do they call them?
the
Quintile
quintile.
one, this, that, could get there. Like the talent means the talent is there. And it's not just me. There's many people that prove that talent is there. We're just not doing enough to unearth it, to polish it, to support it. So talent is there, but talent struggles with financing.
Okay.
Now I'll tell a story. There's a guy I'm mentoring now. I met him 2 years ago, 2023. He had achieved 9 distinctions in matric. He lived in a single room shack in Rustenburg with his grandmother, and he didn't have funding. 9 distinctions. And he had to look to your point about information, he didn't know about SAADP.
Okay.
And that's the problem. But you would think in a well-functioning society that someone who's got 9 distinctions should be on some database where he gets asked, like, which university do you want to go to?
Yes, like the Department of Education where they do these awards and immediately we are there
I
to
asked
grab.
that very question, and he says, well, we go for this award thing, they congratulate us, but there's no follow-up. They had offered him a small scholarship that covered some of his tuition. I mean, he's from Rustenburg, so accommodation not covered. So it's quite, and I don't think his story is the only one. Luckily, a friend of mine, the person who introduced me to, is kind of a business owner who is a friend. So that friend is still carrying the student to today, and I'm playing a mentoring role. But I think that's one of the stories that remind us that there's a lot of talent.
To be done.
There's a lot of talent, and some of it doesn't even need much. As in, some of these guys, they can excel. They just need a little bit of opportunity.
True.
And they'll show what they can do.
Now that you're taking it there, what is your role as, I know now you're playing a board member role and SAADP can do so much with what they have and knocking on corporate doors to get more funding. But then the alumni community, what can be done more so that this talent that is there and out there, and while we're still pushing for transformation and can make at least that financial support to happen, what can alumni community do?
It's very clear what we need to do, but we're not doing it. We're not leveraging, because I guess 10 years ago there was an alumni, but it was mostly people that are very junior and have no influence. Right now, a lot of SAADP former graduates, especially those who graduated 10 or more years ago, a lot of them are in more senior and more influential positions. And we should be using that to start the conversation, to say to these companies, what are we doing to build the pipeline? What are we doing? Yes, we stand at the end of the pipeline to recruit, but what are we doing to make sure that that pipeline is sustainable and it's churning? Because sometimes in companies, the conversation starts at the end when there's EE targets, and then people start complaining, oh, there are too few black actuaries. And they are expensive, so we can't hire them. But like, what are you doing to? So I think alumni should be driving those conversations, and maybe the alumni community. We should be. I think it's part of what I'm trying to do, to say, let's reignite this alumni community. And let's use our networks as a group.
Yeah,
to
I hope with ChatBytes, we call it the Actuarial podcast. It's gonna make sure that when they see it, and more alumni will like, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Because I think just to talk a little bit about this,
Yeah.
the what we can do in our companies. What we found in my company right now, when we did start the conversation about building the pipeline support, there was a lot of support. So, and what became clear is what the company needed was someone to champion the conversation. Because a lot of people understand that, yes, we could do more to support students. Yes, we could do more to mentor. But no one will put up their hand and say, I will
I'll
start,
run it as well.
our company's, because what we have now at Discovery is a program where we're supporting not only SAADP, but ASABA, and we're doing mentorship, we're doing job shadowing programs. So there's a whole suite of things. But for such initiatives to work properly, they need a champion. And that's where I think
great.
SAADP alumni can
get
be that champion inside their own organization to ensure they driving that transformation.
Sure. Now let's go. We went to. I keep on repeating this question
Oh.
because we went to.
Am I
one of
avoiding
the-
something?
No. That's for me because we
Okay.
went on a conference and we just did a quick quiz asking people if they know actual science or they know any actuary and they know what they do. And we got maybe one or two people who could at least answer either one. So maybe let's dig deep into. Yes, you did touch on product development, what you do. Maybe if you can share the light. What do, if somebody says like, what do actuaries do? And or what do you do and how a day in the life of an actuary, this is you.
Yeah, look, it's a hard question, and even actuaries, we struggle to explain what actuaries do. So I think even if you asked like my family, what does he do?
Hey, let's just do like
I think they would
Discovery, Medical
struggle. He
Aid.
works for Discovery. He's the one you can blame for the when medical aid doesn't pay. So actuaries kind of, we use, I guess, mathematical skills, statistics and financial mathematics to predict the future of money.
Okay. Oh, the
To
future
project
of
the future of money. I guess if you think of accountants, they look at what happened to the money. You know, what profit did you make this year? What are your assets? So they look at money in the past to understand your current financial position. Actuaries, we look more to the future.
Okay.
To say financially what is likely to be the company's future financial obligations and how well prepared is the company to meet those future financial obligations. Now, the companies that have significant future financial obligations, it's mostly in insurance, right? Because of in insurance, you as an insurer, you're making a commitment that when you die, I will pay you.
Yeah.
So if you are a big insurance company with 1 million clients, then you've made a commitment that if one of the, or when all of these, because they will all die,
Yeah.
when they all die, I'm
like
going
that.
to pay.
Yeah.
So there's someone who needs to make sure that
There will
you
be the
can
money.
meet that financial obligation, which means then, and you meet it through the premiums. So you need to calculate, and actually is a big, I guess the most well-known role is calculating the premiums, whether it's life insurance, car insurance, in my case, medical aid. So then they say things like, well, does it mean you know when people are gonna die? No, I don't. No,
But there's
I don't.
research,
But we
man,
use,
life
yes,
expectancy and
we use
health.
statistical techniques to say in a large group, not you will die next year. No, I don't know that. It's more if you have, you know, the population level in 60 million people, even though I don't know when one person will die, you can predict with
average.
very reasonable certainty on average how many people die per year and so on. So those are, and that's where statistics come in to say, as you say, if you are insuring a group of cars, on average, how many days in a year do you get storms that damage those cars? What is the rate of accidents and so on? So in the medical aid space, same thing to illness, hospitalization. we use statistical techniques to project that. Then we can say to Discovery, okay, for this health plan, you are going to pay this much. And to pay that much and for the plan to be
This is what you
sustainable,
need.
the premiums need to be this much, and then people get upset because they are too high, and so on. But yeah, that
Okay,
basically is.
now I'm not
actuarial
gonna
science.
blame anyone. Now that it makes sense. I think it's mind blowing as well because we don't look at it. I look at it from my pocket to say
Yes, to
medical
say
aid
it's
is
so much.
expensive.
Yeah.
But remember, the company who's offering, they need to make sure that it's not only you, is everybody else within that needs to be
It's
taken
very
care
tricky. Yeah, medical aid is painful,
Yo.
Yona, because in South Africa, the legislation is such that it operates on a cross-subsidy basis, meaning the healthy and young pay too much so that the older and sicker can receive cover. So it's more, while you are young, you are subsidizing the older because you too, 10 years time, you'll be the
You
older
will be, You'll
and
be
the younger
taken
will
care
subsidize.
of.
That's how the health, which means a young person will always feel like,
Feel the pressure, financial
I'm
pockets,
paying
like,
so much and I never claim.
Yeah.
You're never claiming because some older gogo, needs her.
Oh, man,
And we
needs
don't want to
it
be
more.
charging her 10,000 a month, so you're helping her a bit. But
your
in
time,
return, when you are a gogo, same
you
thing.
will get the same
Someone else will
benefit.
subsidize you. But it's hard to.
But
it's hard to
I'm
explain.
glad you're bringing that up because I don't think we know such. I'm glad you bring
Yes.
it up. Let's talk about professional development. I know you are a fellow member of ASA,
Yes.
and also you have another membership. I think
The Faculty of Actuaries in Scotland? Yeah.
in Scotland. And your other 7 years, you worked in Germany. Maybe you want to share
Yes,
in
yeah.
light of that. How important is membership bodies? When you need to continuously develop yourself. Yes, you've qualified. Yes, you're employed.
Yeah.
But there's these bodies that you need to pay membership and you need to actually be active into making sure.
Yeah.
But maybe share how is that important, and also because we also want to impart the knowledge for the upcoming, alumni or people who qualify to say it's important.
Yeah.
Share more about membership and why is it important.
Yeah, so to be called an actuary, to even be
Designated.
allowed to use the phrase "I'm an actuary,"
Yes.
you need to be accredited.
Designated.
In South Africa, it's with the Actuarial Society of South Africa.
Yeah.
And they'll have their requirements. As you say, it's a professional body, so they're accountable to ensuring that anyone who uses that term is duly qualified and has the competencies that go with
Actually.
with being an actuary, similar to saying I'm a doctor.
Yes.
There's a certain competence we assume when
And all the
someone says-
ethical standards that people don't know that's important. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So first it's just the competency that technically you have the knowledge and the skills, you've written exams, you've passed them, you've proven you have the skills. Then secondly, of course, there's ethical standards. A lot of the exams we write, some, not maybe a lot, but some of the exams we write are on professional behavior, ethical behavior, because being an actuary means you are juggling multiple interests, and I think let's go back to the medical aid example.
Yeah.
There's the interests of the medical scheme to make money, and people always assume that's all these companies care about.
Want to make
making
money, profits.
Profit. There's the profit, so that's the interest of the company. Then there's what we get drilled on in actuarial science in our training is the public interest. So in actual fact, we are supposed to serve primarily the public interest, meaning that everything you do, even though you're helping a company make money,
Remember.
your primary, like I can be held accountable by the professional body, even though they are not involved in the affairs of my company, but the professional body, I'm accountable to them for demonstrating that my choices were in the interest of the members, the interest of the policyholders and the broad public. So that's why I think things like ethical standards are important, because the profession needs to be able to say to the public, we are looking out for you as well. Even though we work for these big insurers that are making their profits, we are also trying to ensure
There's
that
number
those
one
interests
public, yeah.
are balanced. And there's a lot of training that goes into that. As you say, the CPD every year, ensuring both on the competency side, your skills are still up to date. Things are changing. AI is in now. So you need to prove that you are keeping up to date there, but also prove that you are keeping up to date on the ethical and professional side as well. And I think speaking about transformation, I think these professional bodies are also a great platform. And I think SAADP should work with them because they speak to the entire community of actuaries.
Exactly,
And there is a transformation committee on there. I don't know really what the initiatives are. I'm not closely involved. But those are platforms, SAADP can leverage to amplify the advocacy.
Yes. Because definitely SAADP, all they're doing is, this is your pipeline. At the end of the day, this is the pipeline for the profession at large. Not necessarily for only the people that they are funding. We spoke more also a bit about the community and the alumni network. You've covered some of the things in terms of the mentorship and all that.
There's just one question you asked. Sorry, I need to go back. You asked about my international.
Oh yes. Yes, and how was that working in South Africa and also Germany?
Yeah. So what happened was Discovery, I guess my employer, has been doing these partnerships. So they grew internationally through partnerships. People don't know, but Discovery is actually in over 40 countries worldwide. But because they didn't want to invest to put own capital at risk, and also to build new businesses and take on all that risk, not all, but most of our international ventures are through partnerships, meaning we go into a country and we find a company that we can work with and do either a joint venture or something more like a franchise type licensing model in that country and share the profits that come out of that. So in 2014, they got into talks with Generali for a partnership in Europe, all of Europe. So Italy, France, Germany, and so on. And then it was a licensing. So it's like a franchise. So because what's unique about us is this behavioral insurance, so Vitality.
Oh, yes. And I think Discover is very good with that.
We've been recognized internationally as a leader in, it's called behavioral insurance, where your insurance, we influence the risk. So when we sponsor you to go to gym, it's not for fun. It actually reduces our costs on
you're big
on the
on
medical
health
side
and
so the healthier a population is, and the more you attract healthy lives, the better your claims go. So we go to any country and say, look, we have this unique model. If you want to introduce it in your country, we can license it to you. We'll give you the technology, we'll give you the people that have the experience and so on. And then there'll be some kind of licensing fee for that. So as part of that, they then send a team to go support the implementation. And yes, I was fortunate to be one of the people that were sent to Generali to help them implement the Vitality model. Yes, and I was in Germany for 7 years.
So how was that before we move on to?
Tough. A new culture, I mean, we take it for granted, but settling in a new country is no child's play. And settling with a family, because I went there with my wife and 2 children. I had a 3rd child born there. But it's so valuable, and I would encourage anyone who gets the opportunity
to do so.
Take it at first sight. It opens your mind in a way that very little else can, because you get to see
exposure.
Exactly, you get to see the world from a completely different perspective. You get to do business in Germans are very all the stereotypes are true. Very disciplined, very time. I remember the one time, so with us, after lunch, you kind of stroll to the meeting, and you can be 5
Oh,
minutes
yes.
late.
And
You know,
like,
it was a full
hey.
day workshop. After lunch, you have a coffee, and then you chilling and chatting. And then we do that with another lady who's South African. And we walk into the conference room 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
And everybody's seated and quiet and upset that we were late.
Ash,
Um,
there's a side that I see in my head.
they like,
Yes.
so, you know, and you learn those subtle culture
Discipline,
differences
yeah.
that, okay.
Wow.
And I guess it's like learning that some of the, because if you grow up in a certain culture, South African
Okay,
culture,
yeah.
there's certain things you assume are true for everyone,
yeah.
and they are true everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's only when you get out
To
that
say,
you realize, no,
There's no African time
this is
here.
actually,
Yeah.
this behavior
Not acceptable.
is seen or even interpreted differently.
Differently
So,
there.
for example, I think let's one example is Germans want you to be, and many cultures want you to be very straight to the point. Don't beat about the bush. Whereas in South Africa, it's almost rude to not start with pleasantries and have a, start with
Warming up.
warm up,
Set the scene.
put some appeal. Whereas they get irritated, you're wasting time. What are you?
Sure.
Even when they communicate, whether it's negative or positive, to me it would come out as rude. Like, how could you just say that? You didn't even try position it nicely. You just
This is what it is. This
you
is what
just
needs
say.
to be done.
Whereas for them, it's like it's more honest.
Yeah.
When you direct
Oh.
and blunt, you are
Okay,
more
the
honest.
principle